Zack Snyder dropped both of his director's cuts for his Rebel Moon series, and do they improve on the original? Let's talk about it. Disclaimer: this review may contain spoilers. You have been warned. Hello, my name is Diamond, aka Lady Leo. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you are a brand new viewer. So I saw Zack Snyder drop these two parts of Rebel Moon. It had to have been Thursday or Friday because that's when I went in to watch The Umbrella Academy and I noticed it. So I wasn't really a fan of either one of those, and that's me being nice. I didn't like either parts of Rebel Moon. So originally I had zero intention of watching any of these. However, I was kind of Olympicked out. I watched all of the Umbrella Academy and I didn't have any other shows to watch. So I was like, you know what the hell, let's do it. Let's watch them. So if you're not familiar, Rebel Moon is an original story that was split into two parts, with the first one coming out like somewhere towards the end of 2023 and the second one like somewhere in like the beginning of 2024. And they're both directed by Zack Snyder, and then he has a writing credit on them as well. Now I use the air quotes for original because I feel like it's pretty difficult to be like truly original these days, because even though something may not be based on an existing work, it's very heavily inspired by something else, where this is like heavily inspired by Star Wars. So I wouldn't necessarily say this is truly original. And again, like I said, it's pretty hard to be genuinely original. I just think this is original in the sense that like this is a brand new story being told. It's not based off of a comic or a novel or a story or whatever. So that being said, I definitely remember like when they were promoting this film, he definitely said he would be making a director's cut of both of these. But I also feel like I remember him saying something to the effect of like Netflix giving him a blank check and like minimal oversight. And if we believe that, which I kind of do, if we believe that Netflix gave you unlimited money, no oversight, that begs the question, why do you need director's cuts, right? Like, you're getting everything you want, unlimited money, nobody to tell you what to do with it. Why don't you just release the version that you want? Like, why do you need two separate director's cuts? Because Netflix basically allowed him to make 4 separate films, if you think about it, because even though these are definitely elements of the same, they're very different. It's like his version of Justice League. It ain't the same movie. So yeah, they've allowed him to make 4 films, which is crazy to me. They have plans to make more. I guess if it was me, I would handle this totally different, right? Like, if it was me, like Netflix, it's your money, right? If you want to give him a blank check, do what you want, it's your money. However, I would still require that he provide proof of concept, right? Like, just because it's Zack Snyder doesn't mean it's going to be a hit. And this is a streaming movie, so like, I already don't really understand how they really make their money back if they're pouring like hundreds of billions of dollars into a streaming movie, if you're counting the director's cut as separate films, which I am. So if it was me, I would tell him, hey, you get a blank check, but it's not going to be indefinitely. You need to show me that this is popular. So if you want to make a series of movies with some director's cuts, you want to make a TV show, whatever you decide to do, if it ain't popular or people don't like it, it's getting the axe. This is Netflix. Anybody can get it. Just because you Zack Snyder don't mean nothing. That's what I would do. And Netflix decided to let him make 4 movies, but okay, moving on. He released the director's cut of both of these, and he also changed the name of them. So the original first part was A Child of Fire, and the director's cut is now called A Chalice of Blood, and it adds about an hour and a half. So that one does add a lot more footage. And then the second one was called The Scar Giver, and that one's name has been changed to A Curse of Forgiveness, and it also adds like about 50 minutes to it. Just for full clarity, I did not watch both parts because that would have been like 6 hours, and in all fairness, he ain't getting 6 hours out of me, especially since I didn't like the first ones to begin with. So I decided to just rewatch, well, I guess it wouldn't be rewatching. I decided to watch the director's cut of the first part, and I feel like that could tell me whether or not I felt like it was any different. I would say they used the director's cut to add more blood, sex, nudity, use of the F word. That's definitely where you get more of that director's cut vibes. Now, to give this version some credit, I will say that it does do a few things better, in my opinion. I feel like we definitely get some much more world building. They add a lot more religious context to the mother box land. I don't know why, but I always keep saying it. It's the mother world. Sorry. They add more religious content to that, although they're not really interested in explaining it a lot. They just sort of add those elements in, which I do feel like makes it more interesting. Like, it does kind of make me want to know more. Like, for instance, there's this, I guess, this sort of being who powers the ship. It's a woman with her mouth open, and like they feed her organic material, and then I don't know, it's very interesting sort of motif, and I would be interested to know more about it. So even though they don't explain any more of the elements in terms of the world that they introduce, I like that they introduce more of them, because I feel like it makes the world a lot richer and a lot more interesting, at least to me. They also use this time to give more people backstories, although I'm not really sure this is the best use of the story's time, because when the movie starts off, we spend like, I don't know, 10 to 15 minutes with a family who's been conquered, and we find out that they take one of the sons, Eris, and I realized somebody in this group has to be important, because they're spending a lot of time in this opening sequence. But I was like, who's Eris? Honestly, I'm not great at names, and I don't remember the names of everybody in the game, but Eris is a person of color, so I was like, that kind of narrows it down. I still didn't remember who he was when the movie actually got going after this long ass intro, and I was just like, who the fuck is Eris? And then I realized it's the why can't I describe sorry, it's the kid in the military, the one who prevents the village girl from being assaulted, that causes Korra to have to kill all of them. Yeah, that kid who stays in the village, that's Eris. And I didn't remember him because he doesn't really get a ton of screen time in like the original movie. Like, you have that opening part, and then I don't really think you see him much the rest of the movie. And even though you have that intro, I don't really know if that adds a lot to him, because they've given him a few more scenes with the village girl. I'm sorry, I don't remember her name, but I still don't know if that, I don't know if that's the best use of the movie's time, but it definitely gives more context to him, so that's something. The robot gets some more screen time. I think some of those scenes are him just talking to himself, because even though we're adding an extra hour and a half, we still need some more exposition. I definitely think that the action is presented better. So I think it's a combination of like the way that it's presented, right? I think you see a little bit more wide shot, and you can see the choreography more, and there's not as much of that slow-mo. It's definitely there in some parts, but there was definitely parts in both of those original portions of Rebel Moon where like every time a character would do an action scene, it would switch to slow-mo, and it's very annoying. So I think the way that they've incorporated it and how they've decided to present the action scenes, it makes them a lot more fluid and a lot more watchable to me and enjoyable, and I don't mind the slow-mo in that regard. So that's definitely a big improvement for me in this version. That being said, 3 hours and 45 minutes, it's still as long, and while I definitely think there's a lot of improvements that the director's cut makes, I still feel like the way the story is distributed, as it's broken out into two movies, is not doing it for me, because we get more of Korra's backstory, which is good, but not a ton actually, but we do get a little bit more exposition on her part. But I feel like all of the characters that we hop around to find, we still don't get any of their backstories until the second movie, so it still does leave me feeling quite disconnected from most of them. And if we had incorporated some of those into this, I don't know if it would feel better. But I feel like I stand by my original assessment that this would be much, much better as a TV show. I mean, if you want to set up an original universe or an original story, to me, it's really hard to lay the foundation in a series of movies. And it's a lot better to just do it as a TV show. And if you're going to sit here and make 4 movies, 2 different versions of the same movie, why not just invest that time, like 6 to 10 episodes, into a season? And if I were Netflix, if I heard that Zack Snyder was going to release, the 2 versions and then he wanted a director's cut, I would be like, hell no. That's a lot of time and money. Why don't you just make this shit into, a 10 episode season? We can add a little bit more here, a little bit more there, flesh some things out. I feel like this could have been a lot better if it had been a 10 episode season and if we had some more oversight from Mr. Snyder. Oversight's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it depends on who's doing the oversighting and how much, but I think it can be helpful to have somebody else have a different perspective on it, because I still don't like this movie. The improvements are definitely improving, but it's still not really good. You know what I mean? It's not like we moved up from being an F to an A. I think we moved from being an F to a solid D minus. So if you're kind of like me and you really didn't like either one of these parts, I'm not sure if this is going to change your mind. It's definitely better, but it's still not that good. So there's that. That's kind of my thoughts on A Chalice of Blood. The 2 parts are up there if you want to watch them. They're 6 hours long. I'm not interested in watching all of them. So I didn't watch part 2 because I didn't really want to. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward, because again, apparently we're getting more of these. And I would love to know how Netflix makes these decisions, right? Because we can't get a second season of The Brother's Son, sorry. We can't get a second season of The Brother's Son, but we can pour so much money into this. And again, I don't really understand how you make your money back on something like this. But I guess, to be fair, because TV has become so expansive these days, I guess making a TV show could be just as expensive as making a series of movies. I don't know, One Piece probably costs a few $1 million an episode to make, so I guess objectively not that different. But I'm just saying, if you're giving him tons of money, don't you want the best product out of that? I'm just not convinced that this representation is the best product of that. I still feel like we're still leaving some big gaping holes in there. So yeah, I would like more. I would like better and more, but who knows? We're getting more of these allegedly, so guess we'll find out. But that was A Chalice of Blood, the director's cut of the first part of Rebel Moon. Let me know if you guys are checking it out in the comments, and if you have checked it out. Did you like it? Did you think it was better? All right, comment, subscribe. That's my time. Bye.